bus strike is over, but the election season is not.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
I think Jorge Elorza will agree with me that he could use that bus strike like a hole in the head. You know, 6 weeks beginning and then now a few weeks in front of the election. But 'tis the everyday challenges of running a city like the city of Providence. He is here this evening to tell us the backstory, his version on how this whole thing happened, and of course cover some of the other issues in the campaign, respond to his new opponent, Dee Dee Whitman, who was here the other day, accusing him of being at fault for this. All of that coming up in a couple of moments. Great to have you aboard. Thanks for tuning in on this Tuesday evening. Gubernatorial debate last night. Just want to show you a headline here, and I will tell you, I would go to the Projo website and check it out. It was interesting to watch. You know, obviously, if you're a challenger, you think things are diving. If you're the incumbent, you think things are thriving. That's kind of the script. I will tell you, though, Gina Raimondo looked gubernatorial. She had no problem with the challenges from any side, and the debate was a little bit more comfortable for her because they included Bill Gilbert, who was here a week or so ago, the moderate party candidate, in addition to Joe Trillo, the independent, and the near competitor, Republican nominee Alan Fung. I can't tell you that there were any kind of fireworks other than the predictable ones, nor can I tell you that they challenged the governor in a way that made her uncomfortable. So steady as she goes, probably to a 45 to 47% turnout. That's more than enough, it seems, with the way this whole thing is going. Well, details as they continue toward Election Day. In the meantime, in Fall River, holy moly, the Fall River mayor did a very provocative thing today. He, he announced he wasn't going to resign, but he tried his case. He literally tried his case, which is kind of crazy. Here he was.
So that is why, not arrogantly, not selfishly, but humbly, I will continue to every day show you how hardworking your mayor, the mayor of the city of Fall River, is. And I will not resign.
You know, 26 years old, when we first had him on at the age of 23, I really thought that this guy was a man stuck in a young man's body. You know, an older man stuck in a young man's body. He's got a maturity that really kind of stumped me. But I will tell you this, I don't think it was very smart to be, he tried his whole case. He defended his app, was at the center of the whole controversy. I'm not going to get into the weeds on it right now, but his defense attorneys must just be out of their minds. He made a plausible argument, but he's got to recognize that his battle right now is not just political, it's criminal. Anyway, stay tuned on that one. All right, headline, bus strike latest. This was the newest nuance to this that came out. Eyewitness News has a report on this, and we'll ask the mayor about it.
As children boarded their school buses in Providence Monday morning, all sides were relieved.
Today went great. Everything went smooth. You know, these are professional drivers. They know their job.
Now we're learning more about how your taxpayer dollars were spent as the striking bus drivers and the busing company First Student came to a settlement Friday. The mayor's office says they agreed to give $600,000 taxpayer dollars to First Student.
The idea was to avert a strike.
It's the amount the city would have paid if bus service had been provided the last 11 school days.
Normally under the contract, if they don't provide service, they don't get paid. But we've been informed that by putting up that money, the city helped facilitate the settlement.
City Councilor Sam Zurier, who's chair of the School Department Oversight Committee, said they'll now review the settlement and how taxpayer dollars were spent. He wants to see the details of the contract.
They will come to our committee, and then we'll have a chance to review it, because it would be a shame to pay extra money to resolve this situation and find ourselves in a similar situation 12 months from now.
That's unusual. Welcome, Mayor. Good to see you.
Great to be here.
That's unusual that you're really the aggrieved party in this job action, that you had to cough it up to finish this controversy off.
So the thinking on it is that, unfortunately, there's a clause in the contract that said that the bus company was not responsible if there was a strike. And so, I inserted myself into the conversation and said, if I get assurances that this strike is going to be over, and I get assurances that there are going to be no strikes going forward, then effectively that's something that's worth the city contributing extra resources for. So I feel comfortable with that. It's going to be vetted by the city council, and I trust that they'll give it due consideration. They'll look it over, and it'll be approved. Look, we had our kids not getting to school safe and conveniently for 11 straight days. Enough was enough, and we did what we needed to do to end the strike.
Tell me what really got them finished then. Was it the three-pronged request for proposal that you put out at the end of the week with kind of a drop-dead date to say, hey, listen, if you guys don't figure this out, we're going another direction? Or was it 600 G's on the backside? Seems to me the money was speaking.
A little bit of both. Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. So I had the press conference, I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday, and I told them this had to get resolved by the end of the week on Friday. If it's not resolved by the end of the week, we would put out RFPs, and they could potentially both find themselves on the outs, meaning the company and the drivers, and whatever we put on the table is going to be taken away. So I'm glad that helped bring them to the table, and we got this done. 11 days was way too long, but at least an 11-day strike did not turn into an 11-week strike.
Teamsters never felt like they were worried about that because they thought that their jobs were transferable to any new entity.
Potentially, but potentially not.
So Dee Dee Whitman, your opposition candidate, was here last week, and I actually started the show by saying that hey, these things happen. I'm not sure the mayor's at fault here. And she took umbrage with me. Roll this. What is your take on this current problem?
On the strike?
Well, just on the whole situation with the buses and the strike.
I think it's a disgrace. I don't know what to say. You said earlier that you didn't think he was to blame. I kind of think he is, that he took out the language, force majeure, that allowed this to happen.
Back here, Dee Dee Whitman actually inverted the actual fact on that. The language is an issue, but force majeure was actually put in, not taken out. Force majeure is legal language that explains that an entity is not necessarily liable for performing based on circumstances that are beyond their control. The union head also had a thought on this.
It is, we don't have a contract with the city, as you said, but usually if we're in a labor dispute, there's not a third party involved with, when we're fighting corporate America. And here we have the entire city. It's up to the city to protect itself in that contract with the vendor. And I think they dropped the ball completely.
So tell me about that. I mean, you even mentioned that the contract allowed for with a job action. I'm not sure that was the wisest thing for the city to have done.
Well, the reality is that even if that language wasn't on there, the contract had expired. So there was no contract. So it's
First
immaterial.
Student in the city.
First student in the city. So it's immaterial what language was in that contract. There was no contract. It was still working its way through the Providence City Council. So it wouldn't have mattered one way or the other. So that brings us to this point. We had an ongoing strike for 11 days. We needed it to end immediately. Make sure an 11-day strike wasn't an 11-week strike. And we ended the strike. We found a resolution, and in a way that doesn't add a single dollar to the contract. I think that's a win-win-win all around.
Going back, I mean, you did play the heavy, and I thought that was appropriate with the 3-tier RFP threat. I'm not so sure about the $600,000. I'll let the city government figure that out with you as to whether or not that's something that was a wise move. But do you go back and say, maybe I should have pulled these things out of the hat prior to the actual job action? Or did you just think that they were never going to, stop driving?
So we were involved throughout the entire process. First, that long day, it was Wednesday, maybe 3 weeks ago. I spent the entire day actually with my little boy in the negotiation room with them. It was the mediator, first student, and the Teamsters. And so we were trying everything we could to avoid it that day. Then after that, we saw how far apart were they. So we saw how far apart they actually were.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that when we brought something to the table, that it was at a point that would actually make a difference. when they first started striking, they were so far apart on pension versus no pension that, any day would have come and gone. And so, I tracked it very closely, and we did it at the moment that we thought it would have the maximum effect of actually ending this and making sure it didn't drag on for yet another week.
What do you think was the temperament change for them?
Yeah, I think that, missing a paycheck, really matters. It sort of sharpens the mind. And so going a week without work, makes it a lot more real for the drivers. That's on one side. And then on the other side, there was some movement by the company. The company said from the beginning that it would not be giving a pension, but then their tone softened and said, well, if it's a defined contribution pension, maybe they're into it. So both sides really came together in the middle, and that's when I saw the opportunity to say, all right, instead of slowly coming to the middle, let's set a deadline by the end of this week, and I'm glad they got it done.
All right, so going forward, what happens with this deal, both language and financially? What do you see happening differently?
So now it works its way through the City Council, and I trust that the City Council will review it. Hopefully it'll get approved sometime soon.
Well, what is it? Is it substantially different?
And in the contract between the Teamsters and First Student, there's specific language that prevents them from striking. So even if the contract with us and First Student doesn't have that language, we're assured that there isn't going to be a strike because it's part of that contract, and that we were very clear on while they were negotiating.
I'm not sure, I'm not a legal scholar, I'm not sure that's worth the price of the paper it's printed on.
It got the strike ended, and now
I'm not talking about that promise between them. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that puts you in
First
any
Student
better
has
space.
every incentive to make sure that the Teamsters continue to come to work and don't strike. And I've spoken directly with the Teamsters, and they say that under no circumstances will they strike during the terms of a contract.
Well, you have
and if they do, they can be taken to federal court and they'll be back to work in an hour.
Will you have language changes between you and First Students? This force majeure language or job action language, will it be eliminated?
Potentially. We've had that conversation. I feel comfortable that with the strike being over and the language being in that other contract, that there will be no strike and we won't find ourselves in this circumstance for the life of the contract.
All right, we'll check the mayor on other issues, and there are plenty for the city of Providence. Stay with us. Okay, so we're going to run through a series of issues that have been, challenging the city, whether it happens to be campaign or not. This whole water supply situation. I know that you've had a hankering to sell or lease this asset to try to cure the pension liabilities that the city has. Update me on your thinking there.
Sure. The first things first is that something has to be done. Right? If we don't do something about our pensions, the city's going to die this slow and painful death, and in a matter of years, we're going to find ourselves on the brink of bankruptcy. So I think that we all can agree something has to be done. Now, I've put forward a proposal, an honest, transparent proposal that would once and for all solve our pension challenges. And what I've said a number of times is, I've put that out there as a proposal. You don't have to agree with my proposal. But if you disagree with my proposal...
Where's $300 million, right?
Yeah, you have to come up with an alternative. And not something that sort of tinkers at the margins and is just at the edges. Something that really solves the problem.
What do you think this asset is worth in net to you?
It depends. I mean, it's massively complicated. We've done an appraisal of it, and it's about $410 million. But it depends on so many different factors. It can be a lot more, it can be a lot less, depending on what kind of restrictions we put on it. Like, for example, if we want to protect the watershed, well, that drives down the value. If we want to protect labor rights, that drives down the value. And I've said a number of times that from an environmental perspective, I'm committed to making sure that this accords with good, sustainable environmental practices. And I've also assured the laborers that everyone with the job, no one's going to lose their job. There's not going to be massive layoffs. So we want to put those kinds of protections in place so that this can move forward in a way that's as least disruptive as possible, while at the same time truly being a solution, and that means $300, $400, $500 million.
There are different legal perspectives as to whether or not A, you have the right to do this, and B, whether it actually bears the kind of fruit that you hope it would. Do you ever get the feeling that this is kind of like your last bust, though, like your last big asset? I think there's a psychology that goes along, even if you're running your own household budget. The one big asset that you have, if you use it, you lose it, and you'll never return.
That's a good question.
Right? Do you feel a pang of neuroses over this?
That's a good question. There's a lot of there's a misunderstanding on this, that people think that money or revenue that comes in from Providence Water supports the city's budget. That's actually not the case. $0 from Providence Water actually come into the Providence City budget. And what's unfair about it is that we're prevented from charging a market rate, so we have to subsidize our rates. But when we sell to other cities and towns, they mark up their rates, and all that additional revenue goes to support their budgets. That's not fair. My point from the beginning is that if anyone is going to benefit from it, it should be Providence, because we backstop all of the debt and we take on all of the risks.
Should you renegotiate
is very unfair.
Is that renegotiatable without going the whole lump sum and trying to dispose of it?
That's possible. So
I mean, if you get some cash flow into the city from it, maybe
privatization is off the table, I've said, so we're not disposing of it. And there is a question of, do we own it? Do the ratepayers own it? But what's undisputable is we own something. And the plan that we're putting forward is that piece that we own, leasing out the management and operation rights. So that skirts the question of who actually owns it. We can get right down to what is the right way to structure this.
It's very complicated. It really is. It's one of the more complicated financial instruments that we've got in the
Let
States.
me just make this last point, that this financial situation was not my doing, and also I'm not going to bear the brunt of it, because the bill's not going to come due until after I leave office. But we're still heading these issues, attacking these issues head on, and if we don't get this resolved, whoever the next mayor is, hopefully 4 years down the road, it's going to be like 2010 all over again.
Talking about, speaking about economic development and the like, you've got this proposal for this massive tower. We have a headline here on the Fane Tower. The Senate President is looking to kind of override and take control of zoning issues in the 195 redevelopment area. This has always been kind of a tussle. I've been kind of confused as to why the city hasn't had a long-time standard working rate card for anybody to come in there without variance. Seems to me that it's per project type of negotiations and the like, and the synergy between the city and the state doesn't seem to be on par. What's your take about the management of that redevelopment, A, for that building, and B, for that zone?
Well, look at the development that we've had in the city over the past 4 years. We have $500 million under construction as we speak. We have cranes in the sky. We have more construction happening right now in Providence than we've had in at least a decade. Any suggestion that Providence and our administration has not been good for development, or that we haven't worked with the state, is just plainly false. It's belied by the evidence. And so, I want to continue to work, with our partners at the State House and the Governor's office.
You disagree with the Senate President about them taking over the zoning?
I disagree with the need for it. We've look at all of the development that's happening in Providence. We've been, very good in promoting and realizing development in Providence. Doing this change, it would be unprecedented. It'd be done for one particular project, and I think it'd be dangerous for every city and town that cares about their home rule and protecting their own local zoning laws.
You like that building idea?
It
Does it look a little weird?
I get pitched on these all the time. And what I've seen is that what first gets presented to you is very different from what ultimately gets built. So I haven't taken a position on it. I've told the owners this, specifically, that until I feel that it fits into wherever it's built and what we're doing in that neighborhood, I'm going to withhold my support. So we'll see as this evolves and comes together.
So that tells me you don't like the look.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, this is television.
It's more than just the look. It's more than just the look. It's also, we take our streetscape very seriously in Providence. And so, what does it do to someone walking down that sidewalk? Is it inviting, or is it this walled-off complex? Another piece to it is, there's a beautiful public park that's going to be behind it. Now, is it inviting for the public to come in or not? I believe in public parks and want to make sure it's preserved.
Very quick.
So there's a lot to
cover. Superman building, 10 seconds, 15 seconds on that. Is that ever going to be resolved? That's a sore thing for everybody.
Yeah, it's a tough project. What I can tell you is that from the moment I took office until now, we've always been working on some project to get it done. And, with the redesign of Kennedy Plaza and having many of the buses move, what we're thinking of is orienting Kennedy Plaza so that it's almost a front step to the Superman building. Hopefully that makes it more inviting to someone who wants to come in and put their whole corporate headquarters there.
All right, when we come back, the mayor offered a one-word answer to a question the other day, which was still pretty compelling. Stay with us. This is a tweet from Dan McGowan, who, of course, if you want to know something about Providence, you got to ask Dan McGowan. I'm sure the mayor would take umbrage. I mean, if you want to know something about Providence, you ask the mayor. But Dan McGowan, pretty doggone good reporter, don't you think? And he moderated a debate the other day, and he wrote, among the instant pieces of feedback I'm getting from tonight's mayoral forum, folks were surprised that Mayor Elorza said he would support abolishing ICE. I guess it was a one-word answer. Want to elaborate?
Sure.
We only have a couple of minutes. Go.
Well, you know, I've had my differences with the Trump administration's policy on immigration, but what really did it for me was the child separation policy at the border. It is heartless, it is cruel, it is anti-American, and it's counterproductive. And so, you know, we can't have a federal agency that's role is separating children, lying about it, and keeping those kids away from their parents. It's not who we are. We are so much better than that. And that's what did it for me. On top of that, you know, I've said very proudly, we're a sanctuary city here in Providence. Our police department will never be a federal immigration force. Just like they're not federal income tax police, you know, they're not federal gaming agents, they're not federal park agents. We are not the federal immigration force, and our police department never will be. So that's where that comes from.
Well, the interesting thing is, I don't know whether, you know, I don't know that abolishing ICE is the solution. There's no doubt that the Trump administration has put its touch on ICE, and, you know, bureaucracies respond to the boss. I think ICE is behaving in a way that's different than it did with the previous administration. Is abolishing the organization the answer, or is it just battling Donald Trump on execution?
It seems like there's some top-to-bottom reform that's required in the organization. You know, one other policy that, you know, is really mean-spirited is Obama, in fact, did deport a number of folks, but he prioritized the people who were violent criminals. You know, what the Trump administration and what ICE has done is, you know, they go and serve a warrant on those violent criminals, but they also arrest whoever happens to be at the wrong place at the wrong time at that very moment. And that's done to send a shiver down everyone's back that it doesn't matter where you are or how careful you are, you're subject to deportation and being caught at any single time. That's just not right. These are people living their lives in law-abiding ways.
I understand that, but your own law enforcement and your police chief Providence Public Safety Director, both of whom are, I think, pretty good professionals. I think you'd agree. I think they probably cringe over the politics of this. I mean, if there's somebody who needs to go and they've been charged or they've been arrested, they go.
That's right.
So I mean, it's not like you're just give me 20 seconds on how proud you are of the term sanctuary. I'm not sure that it may help you in certain neighborhoods, but in terms of the marketing of the city and the state as a whole, I'm not so sure that's a smart thing.
Well, yeah. Let's couple facts. So cities with higher numbers of immigrants.
So go ahead.
Cities with higher numbers of immigrants have less crime. Immigrants are less likely than natives to commit a crime than natives. And so, you know, this link between crime and immigrants, that's something that the president has just completely put out there.
All right, listen, you said to me,
if you're committing crimes, you should be deported. But if you're living in a law-abiding way, we welcome you here in the city of Providence.
Last minute, will you meet Dee Dee Whitman here before the election?
I'm happy to.
Awesome. We'll throw the radio in, too. Good to see you. Thank
right.
you for showing up. Mayor Elorza, I guess we're over here. Last word when we come back. Thanks. All right, so the mayor seems to be pretty confident about his political future and the outcome of the election. He did mention to me any place, any time he would meet Dee Dee Whitman, so we'll ask her and we'll see if we can get the two together before Election Day. Coming up this week, we expect to talk with both Congressman Langevin and Cicilline, so be ready for that. We got a lot going on as we've just kind of dug into this important political week. You have a great night. See you on the radio at 3 until 6 on WPRO. Good night.